Well, happy Saturday. This is Rob Mazak. I am a psychic medium. Today I wanted to kind of ponder a little bit on our reality. And I'm not sure exactly what direction I'm going to go with this. But it all started by an article that I was reading tonight that came out on mainstream media, msn.com or something like that. And it really kind of struck me as interesting. And it talks about light, and we'll come back to the article in a second. But one of the things that has really kind of brought me around more to the holographic universe or the simulated universe is some things that I've been hearing in a lot of different videos and articles that I've read, where if there was a simulation, or if this was a simulation, we should be able to detect somehow some type of boundaries or some type of things that limit this particular space. There has been some theories and some evidence, so to speak, quote unquote, that I've seen that people have found different boundaries to our reality. I don't know, I don't remember how they did that or what they used to do that, but I've read that many times. There was a theoretical physicist that I did a video on, or a podcast on, that talked about the fact that in the equations they were using to describe the universe, or the cosmos, they had found computer error correcting codes. Now, mind you, we're using math and theories, but still it's kind of raises your eyebrows, because those error correcting codes are the exact same error correction codes that are used by computers, so that when you transmit out of your computer to a different source, like sending an email, those error correcting codes keep the original message in place, so it doesn't get distorted, so at the other end it's the same as it was when it started. Apparently that's woven into the fabric of the cosmos, at least through their description using theories and equations. I don't know if that's proof, but it's interesting that they're there. Why they're there, who knows? But the other thing that I found by looking at quantum physics is really cool. I mean, we're talking about the quantum meaning we're getting down to the very, very smallest particles that there are in existence. I think we're down to the quark, or maybe even farther than that. I'm not sure, but we're way down there. I mean, the farther you look, the more there is. It is really interesting that we're finding more and more at the subatomic levels than we ever have before. And some of those things are really helping describe even the spiritual realm. However, in all of science and almost all of the experiments and every bit of data that I can find, at least, is that there is an actual limit, a limiting area of our reality. Whatever this is, right, is that the speed of light is always constant. It's not slower, it's not faster, it's always the same, constantly, 186,400 miles per second, which is pretty daggum fast, right? So I think that it's not hard to imagine anymore, because light kind of equates into energy, electricity, things like that. They kind of go hand in hand. When I click on my computer to log into a SharePoint somewhere, I automatically get a request on my phone to validate a code that comes up on my computer to make sure it's really me. Now let's think about that for a second. So my computer is connected to the internet through one server. It goes out and does its thing and makes its way somehow into the cellular signal and towers and back around to my phone. And that sounds simplified, but it's very complex and the distances are extremely long, but it happens almost instantaneously. There's very little drag. And so the speed of light is extremely fast. And so it is kind of a useful tool if you think about it. You put your flashlight on in dark and you immediately can see within a distance of the light. There's no lag whatsoever. There's no drag, nothing. But that brings me back around to this article that I read tonight. I want to read part of it because it makes a little bit of sense. But the title of it is Light Brought to a Halt in Quantum Breakthrough. So they said that this trick was achieved in a special kind of material known as a photonic crystal, which has a structure that affects how electromagnetic waves pass through it. And by distorting this crystal in the right way, even by just a tiny amount, this particular team were able to take the individual photons of light that make up this electromagnetic wave, light, and it can be slowed down and even stopped. And it goes on in summary to say that being able to control light, to stop light, to direct light, and not just allow it to go and bounce around and do whatever it needs to, that it will create absolute control and immense power applications and I think it was computing, but definitely in lasers and different things like that, and quantum light sources. And my whole lifetime, I've always heard about the speed of light. It hasn't changed in anything, anywhere. And here we are, we have an article that says that somebody was actually able to stop it, contain it. Even the darkness can't do that. I did a podcast on that. You can't inject more darkness to stop light. Light is just a thing. It penetrates and perpetuates everything that it passes through, exactly. And so light is very, very interesting, yet it's constant. But here we now have an example of being able to control light. To be honest, this seems like almost like looking at AI coming around. It's like only the beginning of massive applications and changes and possibly very dangerous things, right? AI, for example. We've all seen the movies with with AI eventually taking over mankind, Skynet, all these different things. And so this to me seems like a very simple experiment and a very simple result. But I think it's the tip of the iceberg myself. And it makes me not worry, but it's like we are really playing with reality, with whatever this place is. This swings me back around to the whole idea of this being a holographic universe or reality. If we can now take something that is a constant and is a limiting factor in our reality and now have the ability to control it, I wonder if that's really going to break down the fabric of our reality. When enough people start to do this, you would think that if you're going to stop light from doing its thing, that it'll eventually cause a lot of problems. Sort of like when you have a river and you go put up a dam to hold back the water, to then use it for electricity production or whatever. What you've done is you've changed the earth, you've changed the cycle, you've changed vegetation, you've changed animal life, you've changed everything, not everything, but many things. And I think this is very similar when you look at the fact that we are almost like going to be able to dam up light based on this experiment. And I don't think that this little bitty experiment is going to stop there. I believe that this is going to continue. These kind of things are going to continue. And I think we're getting into a danger zone. And I think we're getting into a danger zone with a lot of things. But I've been back and forth on a lot on realities. But I'm having a hard time escaping from the harder and more prevalent belief in a simulated type reality. Granted, it's a very, very in-depth biological type of reality, one that is just immensely complicated and intricate, yet still it is a simulation, in my opinion. Now you can take that for whatever you like. Now I'm not saying that this is true. I'm not presenting these things as truth. What I'm saying is it, in my mind, in my opinion, in my intuitive side of myself, it's beginning to feel like everything that we see at this macro level, this level where everything seems solid, everything seems real, is only propped up and held up by very little to nothing at the micro level. I was just watching a video, actually, it talked about that. I mean, I've heard it in many ways, but it talked about the fact that really protons and elements and particles and all these things, whatever names they are, what depths we're at, are really like possibly there. There's just a whole bunch of possibility waves of possibilities that are held into place by someone's perception or someone's or something's deliberate act of engaging with those possibilities. So it's like someone or something is creating with this endless possibilities of particles and simply forming things into solid matter or what appears to be solid. In quantum physics and quantum mechanics and quantum everything, it's been pretty well determined that atoms are not the base of everything. Within each of those particular nucleuses, right, protons and neutrons and all these different things, they are simply almost complete empty space. They're just a bunch of electrons everywhere at the same time, happening at the same time, vibrating at the same time. They're not anything in particular until acted upon. And I find that very, very interesting. And it's hard to really imagine that. Science has really, really come a long ways, and they've really brought forth a lot of theories and some evidence, things that we can actually, quote unquote, see and experience in experiments. You got that big collider out there in Switzerland called CERN, and they are really digging down into things. They are really, really looking for the depths of existence. And during many of my meditation journeys, but one in particular I remember was really, really interesting. It's been a minute since I had this one. I'm going to summarize. But I found myself in this journey on a very large or almost endless flat surface, like semi-translucent black surface that was, from my position, was pulsating in, coming in on itself and going back out as far as I could see, so to speak, back and forth, almost pulsating. And in the middle of this particular disc, there was, from my only way I could describe it, was like a crystalline type object that was, I believe I described it as like 30 feet high. I was just trying to judge it based on my height, as I was standing on that particular disc, about 30 feet high, above and below, almost like it was like a spinning top, right? Those old spinning tops where you twist it with your thumb and your finger on the top, and the bottom is at the bottom. The bottom will then become the spinning part. Everything in the universe seemed to be drawing into this space and then back out and up. And it was just like pulsating. And this older female came out from within this thing. We had a conversation, and she told me that I was actually on what she considered the very smallest bits of matter, if you will, of the universe. Smallest particle. I think she told me it was a quark. Anyway, what she told me was that it was the smallest bit of matter, particle that ever existed. That even that little tiniest piece was not just a part of the universe, it was the universe. It was absorbing everything that there ever was, is, and shall be. And it was also pushing all that same stuff back out. Just one of the tiniest things that exists was ebbing and flowing the entire universe. And I found that just absolutely amazing. And of course, that's not proof. Let me put that out there. I am not saying that this is a reality, but it matches a lot of the things that I have read in the past and what I've learned since. And I find it interesting that in that conversation with this woman, she also said, now, this might be the smallest particle there is, but within this smallest particle, you can then dig down, and there's also, if you dig down far enough, there's another smallest particle. And then, once again, you can dig down into that, and then there's another smallest particle. There's really seems to be no end to existence based on this meditation journey. So I think we are barely scratching the surface when it comes to even the quantum science and the mechanics and the theories and the equations and all the ideas. And I think we're all bouncing around the truth, if you will. But I think this universe, well, I'm pretty sure this universe is far more complicated than we could ever imagine. Even if you look at humans as we know them, they're very complex. Can you imagine if the universe is what we are being told it is, with hundreds of billions and billions of galaxies, that it's extending, so far that it's just unimaginable, that us on this earth, even as big as we think it is, we are a speck on this earth, a speck. And the earth would be nothing, wouldn't even be a speck. It would almost appear as the smallest particle that there is, based on the size of the universe as we're being told it is. Now, whether the universe is like it is, or like we're being told it is, I don't think it matters. I think it helps describe all there is. I think even if we're talking about a simulated universe, there's got to be very similar aspects. And the other thing that's interesting about a simulation, we talked about limits, right? So if you were going to make a simulation, then you would set up laws or rules or aspects about the universe or your simulation that are going to be normal and standard. And we call those the laws of physics, where things just work a certain way. And that's just the way it is. I think that also is a component of what a simulation would be. And simulations, as you've probably heard me say before, are not necessarily limiting to the fact that we are deterministic, meaning a lot of people think that if we're in a simulation that our lives are dictated and everything is playing out exactly like the program is designed to do. I've mentioned this before. Elon Musk talks about that simulations are not anything like that at all. When he's going to build a rocket, for example, they're going to run simulations after simulations, put in the values, put in the standards, put in the limits, and let it run to see what happens, to see if their rocket is actually, or might actually probably get off the ground and actually get out into low Earth orbit or wherever it's going. And they're going to keep running those simulations and let them play. Let's see how it works. Not put any particular outcome in it, because then it's not a simulation. And eventually they're going to run simulation after simulation until it's perfected enough that they will spend the money to put that, whatever it costs for that rocket to put it up in the air. It might be $1 billion, right? But you see my point. So if we are a simulation, it's no slap in the face to determinism. I still think we have choices. I still think we have free will. I still think that there's a creator. Obviously, I think it's stronger argument towards having a creator, because if this is a simulation or holographic universe or something that's created, someone had to do it, or something had to do it. It might be AI, who knows what it is. But it still perpetuates there being a creator. So I don't think it really dims down anything about reality. I think a simulated or holographic reality is probably more real or more authentic than anything we have been taught. Once again, don't get me wrong, we could very well be on a spinning ball in the universe, just like they're telling us. The older I get and the more I look at things and the more intuitive I become, it just doesn't feel like that's what it is. But once again, I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, it's just something that's really interesting, something to research, something to look at, but does it really change anything? If we were a globe or a flat earth or we're a simulation or whatever other kind of ideas there are out there, guess what? I still got to pay my bills. I still got to go to work. I still got to, take care of my family. I still got to fix my car. I got to have a car. I got to have clothes. All those things are still the same. It doesn't matter whether we're on a globe or on a flat earth or in a simulation. We still have the same dynamic. I don't know why people argue about this. Now, I'm not arguing at all. I'm just kind of throwing out some ideas, things that I've heard, things that I've read, things that I've watched. And that story that I was touching on today really kind of struck me and, pretty dear to the heart there, that now that we are learning to control something that's constant and perhaps change it, I wonder what that's going to do to this reality. I wonder how that's going to affect it if this becomes something that happens on a large scale. Can you imagine if we were able to control all the light? What kind of power that would be behind the person who had that control? That would be astronomically dangerous. I mean, it's bad enough that, in our normal, quote unquote, normal world of politics and things, that the control that some people have is just enormous. And we can feel like we're free. Reality doesn't change who we are and why we're here. And maybe we're here simply for somebody's pleasure, to see how the evolution of humanity changes with each simulation. Restart, put some of the same characters in different bodies, different types, different things, and to see how they react with as being another type of thing or being. Sort of like reincarnation, that model. I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of things to think about, and it almost blows your mind. It kind of really boggles the mind. There's so much that we don't know. And, I'll probably speak for everybody here, is we all really do want to know. We really do. And we all hope and pray that one day, when we are not living anymore, when we leave this place, that we will actually have the opportunity to look back and be given the answers and to know what this is and why we were here and whether we did what we came here to do and came and experienced what we are supposed to experience. We all hope that. That would really be sad to have all of this learning, all of these lessons, all of these things in this life, and just to be in nothingness after that. But I don't really believe that. But I will kind of wind this down a little bit. We are in some type of reality. And remember too, though, that you can affect this reality, your world, by proper thinking, feeding your body and your mind with the right things, keeping things away from your energy field, from around you, the music that you listen to, the people you surround yourself with, the way you eat, the way you exercise, all these things, the way you think, your goals that you set. You can, just like those waves of possibilities at the quantum level, you can solidify just about anything you want by paying attention to it, putting effort into it, putting thought into it, putting you into it, into the equation. It can be done. I have plenty of examples of that from my own self, which we're not going to talk about in this podcast. But anyway, I would really like to hear what you guys think about this. Go to my website, lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. Find my contact page and reach out to me. Let me know what you think. I would love to collaborate with people, hear what their thoughts are, and maybe combine ideas and help try to solve this puzzle a little bit more, or at least get a little more solid information, if we can, behind all of this. I look forward to hearing from you guys. You guys will hear from me again, I promise. I love to talk to you all, try to share my ideas, and hope that it will help others in their process of life. Stay strong and live your life.